Government for sale or rent, billionaires for president, elections on the auction block, buying access like a stock. It's a money game played by the few. We've got a lot more of it than we do for these men of means. What a sweet scheme, the big money road. Soft money donors packs, buying ads to launch their attacks, promising to lower the tax. So when they win, their donor friends get all their dough back. It's just a little bit of quid pro quo makes those campaign contributions.
You can take your mind to any place because your mind's open for rent.
Welcome to Insights. As you know, every month we try to bring a little bit more insight into the subject matters that are important to you. Tonight's discussion will be on clean elections, question 2 on the ballot coming up in November for you to vote on. Many of us believe that this may be the most important issue on the ballot of this November 3rd. Maybe a little bit biased on that, but many people believe so, for a clean election and an even playing field. Tonight we have some guests with us who are very much involved with this program or this campaign. And we have with us George Pillsbury, Director of Money and Politics Project. Also, we have Tina Sankati, did I say that correctly? Field Organizer. And Jason Cohen, Communication Director. Now, there are a lot of questions you're going to have about this election, and we're going to try to answer some of them tonight because you know you're going to probably the big money Vote or No campaign will be coming soon on your local station. Not here. One of the questions that people have been asking me, and I'd like for some of these people to answer for me, and maybe George, you can answer this one. Why we need this reform? And, you know, isn't this the problem on the federal level? I mean, why do we need this in Massachusetts?
Well, Jesse, it's really a big problem on the federal level, but it's a big problem here on the state level as well. I mean, the cost of campaigns is really out of control and out of the reach of average citizens and voters and candidates. Right now, you either have to be personally wealthy or access to a lot of wealth to run for office. Number 2, there's a hugely unlevel playing field. Some candidates have a lot more than others, and it's an endless money chase. Candidates and our elected officials are spending far too much time fundraising instead of out there talking to voters about the real issues or doing the job of elected office holders. And finally, it's where they're getting the money from. Right now, they depend on special interest donors. I mean, they're getting most of the money from a very small group of people, lobbyists, executives, and PACs that are connected to some of the largest industries in the state, like insurance, banking, and healthcare, which are all regulated by the state government. So we have a big problem of influence and of just the cost.
And as you mentioned, if they're spending all this time raising money, when do they have time to do the job? How much time do they really spend in raising this money?
Well, at the federal level and at the higher offices, it's practically half, or more so at the time. But this is true in the statewide races. The people running for governor now, they're raising $75,000 every week of their campaign. So that's almost over $10,000 a day. They're out there on the phone dialing for dollars. When do they have time to do their job? That's a good question.
No, I don't know who's. A lot of people want to know, how does this law work? I don't know. Tina, can you handle that one for me? How does the law actually work?
I actually think Jason's going to take that one.
Yeah. Okay.
The law is actually fairly straightforward. Right now, there's 3 problems, or more than 3 problems. There's a lot of problems with the way the current system works. First of all, there's a lot of good candidates that can't run for office. They may have great ideas, but they don't have access to the money, as George was saying, to run for office. There's also just the influence of all the special interests in the political system. And finally, there's the impact on voters. We look at voter turnout, it's plummeted in the last couple decades. Voters feel like their vote doesn't matter anymore. And it's a real shame. And we also have this big soft money problem. We have all this soft money from federal national party fundraising that's being funneled into Massachusetts elections. So basically, the way the clean elections system works is pretty straightforward. First of all, candidates have to agree to spending limits. And they also have to agree to contribution limits. They can't take more than $100 from anyone. Now, if they abide by those limits, they can qualify to receive a set amount of public funds to help them run for office. But what's important is candidates do not get something for nothing. Only qualified candidates who demonstrate a broad base of support in their district can get access to public funds. And the way they do that is not by gathering lots of big money contributions from special interests, but by gathering lots of small contributions from registered voters in their district. So rather than the case right now where we have legislators that are raising a lot of money from often lobbyists in Boston or big money contributors, as George was saying, outside of their district, candidates would actually have to show that they have a strong base of support in their district. That's a big fundamental difference. Secondly, the Clean Elections Law closes the soft money loophole. Right now, there's all this national party fundraising money that gets funneled into Massachusetts. Question 2 will close that loophole and it will ban soft money in Massachusetts. Thirdly, question 2 also increases disclosure and reporting requirements for candidates. Right now, that information is on file in Boston, but it's really hard to get to. It's very difficult for voters to get access to that information, particularly if they don't live in Boston. So what the Clean Election Law does is mandate electronic filing so that candidates and voters have ready access to that information, and then it's on the World Wide Web, and it's available at public access terminals around the state.
Keena, a lot of people out there in the TV world say, what's in it for me? What does it really mean for the voters? What are they, benefiting from this? Can you answer that for us?
Sure. Voters actually benefit in a couple of different ways. First is that they will have elected officials that are more responsive to their issues, their concerns, and what they feel their needs are as Massachusetts citizens. They will also have more candidates to choose from when they go to the polls on Election Day. Right now, and in '96, 2/3 of all legislative seats were uncontested. So lots of people were going to the polls and just voting for the only name that was on the ballot. So with this system in place, more candidates will be able to run for office. Candidates of modest means with good ideas that don't necessarily have access to the large amounts of wealth that you need to run for office right now will also be able to run and win and represent people that are just like them.
Well, that's making an even playing field again. I do umpiring in town here, so some people don't want it even all the time. But, well, another question would come up, and I'm sure that you will be lambasted by the money to be that it's going to cost the Massachusetts taxpayer millions of dollars. How much is this really going to cost? I don't know, George, you want to take this one? How much?
Jason's just going to.
Jason's good at this one? Okay, because they want to know how much.
Jason's the only one that really knows anything.
I don't know, you guys are pretty much, covering things nicely. But they want to know, how much is this going to cost me a year? What's going to come out of my pocket? Or do I save money on this? That question is going to be out there.
No, sure. I think it's a very important part of people's. It's a very important thing for people to consider when they're making up their mind about question 2. The law actually costs fairly little. It's about $14 million per year. Now that sounds like a big number, but actually we have a budget of over $19.2 billion. So we're talking about less than 1/10 of 1% of the budget, 1/1000th of the budget. And actually by law, the law itself stipulates that it can never exceed more than 1/10 of 1% of the budget. Now just to put that in focus a little bit, that's about $4 or $5 per voter here in Massachusetts. It's about the cost of cleaning up after an average snowstorm.
Because people, they get a lot of talk from politicians would have, we maybe sign a little bit to our audience.
Yeah.
What you're saying is it's only going to cost them $4 a year? Am I hearing that correctly?
That's true. And to put that even more, a better frame of reference, Massachusetts government spends about that much money on office supplies. Massachusetts office spend about $12 million on tape and paper clips here for state offices. So we're not talking about a lot of money. And frankly, when you hear the special interests trying to distort question 2, and they say, well, this is going to take money away from education, this is going to take money away from the environment and these issues, That's really just not true. This isn't about a choice between education and a healthy democracy. We shouldn't have to make that choice. We should be able to have both, and we clearly can. We have a $19.8 billion budget. We're running almost $1 billion budget surplus. This is not a matter of cost. This is a matter of being willing to make the commitment to having a healthy electoral system.
I say the difference will be that, you know, I've been in Europe and people, they ask me about the political system here, and when I get done trying to explain it to them, they say, you mean you buy your politicians? You buy them? I say, yeah, I guess. But
Well, it's for sale, Jesse. I mean, I think people have a right to buy a car or vacation, but really they don't have a right to buy an election. That's the problem. I mean, there's just some things in our democracy that shouldn't be for sale, and elections are one of them.
yes, in the production you're going to see following this is the last couple of days of the bus convoy, was it?
Bus tour,
Bus
yes.
tour. And it was, the tape will show you what in Boston and in Somerville. And Jason, you were on that tour for how many days? You were like non-sleeping for like 8 days?
I was only there for a couple. I think Tina actually put in more hours than I did on the actual
it was
bus.
10 days.
10 days.
I wasn't on the bus for 10 days, but it was a
Old-fashioned
10-day.
campaigning, like on the train, you know,
Yeah,
getting
whistle-stop
out to
tour.
the streets, right? And there was a lot of speakers on this production you'll be following up. But I want to, you know, see if there's any other, you know, you think important point that the people would be interested in, and that you could get out before we close up here. Is there?
Well, I think that there are a couple of things, Jesse. One is that is the question of, who's going to be against this? Well, we know that the special interests will be against this. We know that many of the, unfortunately, the incumbent elected officials are probably against this, and that's why, in fact, it's on the ballot and why it's not going through the legislature. There's no way that the state legislature would pass this kind of comprehensive and really fundamental reform of the way we finance our campaigns. Their incumbents are just too big of a beneficiary of the current system. They have the big war chest. They've outraised their opponents 3-1. So this really is something that has to be decided by citizens, and that's why you're going to see it on your ballot on November 3rd. That's question 2. Clean elections is the only way we can do it. They're not doing it in Washington, and they're not doing it on Beacon Hill, and it's really up to us, the voters, to make this change.
I think that I had a discussion with Senator Bradley 2 years ago and about this issue, and he said to Jesse, there is no way this is going to be done through the Beltway. It has to come through grassroots initiatives. Now, I'm with Green Party and Veterans for Peace, and Green Party was instrumental up in Maine and getting it passed there. And I think that you'll find through history some of the most significant changes that we've had for civil rights, women voting, what have you, came from grassroots initiatives, not from the powers to be. And this is another one, I think, for this generation, for this election coming up. And if we win it, I really believe that it will sweep the country. I mean, people across the country, because we did a trial basis, what was it, a year and a half ago? And we got you the voters, said over 89% approval. Because the opposition wasn't strong at that time, but I think the American people are ready for this. Any last comments on that, Tina or Jason?
Well, right now, just to talk about a little more about the grassroots aspect of this, we have over 6,000 volunteers across the state that are working every day, urging people in their communities to vote yes on 2. So you're exactly right. This is coming from the voters. The people want this, and it's going to happen.
Right, volunteers. They're not getting the big checks.
Absolutely not.
I think, though, another thing to add to what both George and Tina were saying, it is coming from the voters, but there are definitely candidates who are behind this as well. We don't have a legislature that's just full of obstacles. There are some that don't want to see it passed, but there are certainly a lot of good people in the legislature who don't like fundraising either. They hate having to spend all their time fundraising. Frankly, I haven't met a single legislature who really says they like the way this current system is and they think there's nothing wrong with it. So I think it's important to recognize that these are really good people who are trapped in a bad system. And it may be difficult to get reform through the legislature, but I think, as Tina said, we have an incredible number of volunteers and grassroots activities going on that are going to really make sure we pass this in November and that the legislature hears the public mandate to really pass reform.
I've noticed more of these are jumping on the bandwagon. In fact, I believe I heard that our entire congressional delegation from Massachusetts is in total support of this. Am I correct?
That's right.
That's right. The congressional delegation, all 10 Congress people and both senators have come out in favor of question 2, I think, because they experience the worst of it. They have to, the fundraising is an endless money chase at the federal level, and nothing is happening in Washington. And what they've said, what Marty Meehan, who's really the leader in the country for reform, has said is that it's got to start in states like Massachusetts. It has to come from the states. That's what we've been talking about. It's a state-by-state citizen rebellion against big money in politics. And Massachusetts voters have a great opportunity on November 3rd to keep this going, and started in Maine and Vermont and Massachusetts and Arizona, and we're going to go on and sweep the country.
That sounds really great. I mean, this is, as I have you in the tape saying revolution, but this is the founding place of revolution. I mean, this is a moving thing that you, the people, your voice will count. And these politicians actually make work for them, not for their financial interest. This is, some people might be shocked by that. But I think initially our founding fathers also had this in mind, that we would do this. Anything else on that, Jason, that we could pretty much covered it? And the phone number again, if you have any questions on this issue.
Is 888-775-2475. And that's toll-free anywhere in Massachusetts, even I think outside of Massachusetts, actually. You can also call, there's a local office number is 451-0399. And this is really an opportunity. There's really just a couple moments in history where voters have a real opportunity to fundamentally change the system, and we really think this is it. We can limit the influence of money on politics. We can make sure good candidates can run for office, and we can close that soft money loophole. So definitely urge people to vote yes on question 2.
So I thank you for watching tonight, and following this, we'll be showing you a video of the last couple of days at the club in Cambridge and down the Boston Park Square. Also, not Park Square, what was that? Park Street Station, which went on to St. Paul's Cathedral. And you'll be entertained by Jimmy Tingle and get a better grasp on this question. So I thank you for watching, and remember, vote yes on 2. Thank you.
Government for sale or rent, billionaires for president, elections on the auction block, buying access like a stock is a money game played by the few. We've got a lot more of it than we do for those men of means. What a sweet scheme. They're on the big money road. Soft money donors pass, buying ads to launch their attacks, promising to lower the tax. So when they win, their donor friends get all their dough back. It's a little bit of quid pro quo. Make those campaign contributions flow. For those men of means, it's a sweet scheme, the big money road. In every election, in every town, candidates ride on the money go round, dialing for dollars and digging for dough. The more they get, the more they forget what they're there for. It's government for sale or rent. Billionaires for president. I'm not crazy. Injections on the auction block. Buying access like a stock. It's a money game played by the few. got a lot more of it than we do. For these never means what a sweet scheme. Big money roll, pick it up, man. It's special interest, what's your interest in me? $1,000 a dinner for two, your spouse gets in free. For $5,000, I'll shake your hand and share a cigar. 100,000, we're talking now. All right, you allow it. Government for sale or rent. Millionaires for presidents. Elections on the auction block. Buying access like a stock. How do I do it right now? Democracy is on the ropes. The money counts more than our votes. We need elections free and clean from that big money road. Get off that big money road. Everybody, big money road.
Shaw and Harris and Dean Strike to welcome you to St. Paul's Cathedral and congratulate you on the wonderful demonstration that you just carried out over there on Park Street and for getting this question on the ballot. This campaign is the tidal wave to turn over the vote of privilege that has corrupted and messed up the politics not only in this state but in the country. And no matter what you think about Clinton, no matter what you think about Margaret Lucci and all that other stuff, the single most important thing that's happening in this election is this ballot question and the need to get this ballot question passed. Right on.
I'm Gerald Karlsruhe, president of ARP Massachusetts, representing over 840,000 members. This is not a new issue, nor a new cause for many of us. Without question, it is time to level the playing field so that citizens at large, younger and older, can have the same access to government as do wealthy campaign contributors. We cannot sacrifice the interest of individual Americans to the special interest of those who use campaign contributions to try to influence public policy at the expense of public interest. That's why we at ARP believe strongly that campaign finance should include voluntary spending limits, incentives for candidates to support them, and prohibitions on the kinds of soft money and a loophole in the law that we call bundling that make possible for PACs to make huge contributions to political parties. Please join me, ARP, and my distinguished colleagues to spread the word about question 2 and to support the Clean Elections campaign on November the 3rd. And I thank you.
There is a tidal wave that's coming. Each and every one of you here are the storm that gets that tidal wave started. And then the tidal wave are the individuals whose hearts you touch, who you persuade, who you encourage, who you bring on board. And then together, you, the storm, the people you touch, the tidal wave, we will turn this over. And it will be yes on 2. And the next time I see you, I'll see you as an elected official.
Another famous New Englander said, the long habit of not thinking a thing wrong gives it the superficial appearance of being right. and time makes more converts than reason. Now is the time, and Massachusetts is the place. It's the place to show politicians that we are sick and tired of the role of big money in politics. It's the place to remind us that the golden rule is not he who has the gold rules, but it is the golden rule of fairness and equality of one person, one vote, the way our founding fathers and mothers envisioned. What is happening here in Massachusetts is historic in its implications, and when the citizens here on Election Day confirm that they want to limit spending, they want to reduce the influence of special interests, and to level the playing field so any of us can run for office, you will have sent a message that will resonate like the shots heard around the world. What you are doing here in Massachusetts is absolutely the exercise of democracy of its highest order. And we in Washington and around the country are watching what you're doing and have enormous respect for it. Thomas Jefferson said it best. He said, "I know of no safer repository of the ultimate power of society than the people themselves." I thank you for your work.
I'm here because I want to say to you tonight that within the next 4 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks, the work that you have been doing for the last several years is going to pay off. I can tell you that as I move in locally in communities where you wouldn't think people were even thinking about this, they're talking more and more and they're hearing more and more about clean elections. It is all over this state. I think tomorrow we'll be in Grove Hall talking about this issue. People are concerned about it, and you are succeeding. We are going to reach critical mass. I just want to say also that Warren Tolman was here a while ago, and he had to leave early, but he asked me to tell you that he and Scott Harshbarger, Warren Tolman, as you know, is the candidate for lieutenant governor, and Scott Harshbarger is the Democratic candidate for governor, are foursquare behind this effort.
My name is Jimmy Tingle, and that is my real name, and I'm from Cambridge, Massachusetts originally. Thank you for that warm, Somerville welcome. I'd like to welcome you to the Cambridge-Somerville line in the United States of America, the greatest country in the world. A country of class, culture, and contradiction. A microcosm of humanity, which is a microcosm of the world. I'm talking about a country where a Harvard student and a homeless man could share the same table at the Aubon Pen. A country where even the beggars can be choosing. Well, no, actually, I don't have any spare change, but I'll gladly buy you a hamburger. A hamburger. I don't eat meat. I'm talking about a country where I, as a younger man, used to buy imported beer thinking I was going to meet women from Europe. So determined to promote gender balance that the baby Jesus on the nativity scene in the Cambridge Common is a woman. Surrounded by 3 wise persons. Bearing gift certificates. The home of MIT, the land of the Pilgrims, the land of the Kennedys, and the neighborhoods of Tip O'Neill. I'm talking about a country where in 5 minutes you could meet a city worker, a communist, a venture capitalist, a Republican, a Democrat, a Hindu, a Hare Krishna, a Buddhist, and a monk, and that's just the doorway of the coop. Welcome to the greatest country in the world. All you folks out there in the North Shore, my name's Jimmy Tingle. It's nice to be here in downtown Boston, the birthplace of liberty, the United States of America. Yeah, one of the things that question 2 will do is help get the money from insurance companies out of the political process. Not that they shouldn't have a voice, they shouldn't just have the only voice. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. Everybody knows the insurance companies are partially responsible for the health care crisis for one simple reason: they don't want to cover sick people. Well, what are you doing in the health care business? You want to deal with healthy people? Fine, buy a racquetball club. I mean, when you think about it, if the insurance companies don't want to cover sick people, how would they like it if everybody in society had that attitude toward them? The president of Blue Cross Blue Shield, he calls up the police department. Hello, police? Yes? Please help. There's a bunch of disgruntled patients in front of the insurance company. They're hurling crutches and wheelchairs at the building. They're all upset because we cut off their insurance. Please help. Geez, we'd love to help you, sir, but we only deal with the well-behaved. Just the other day, $270 billion for the defense budget, right? A lot of that money going for new and bigger and better weapon systems. I don't want to sound like, you know, I'm anti-military, but don't we have, like, enough weapons in this country right now to defend this country with all the tanks, planes, and aircraft carriers, plus the simple fact that if anybody did try to attack us and land at Logan Airport, how are they going to get through the tunnel? And even if they do get through the tunnel, where are they going to park? Here's the thing, folks. Here's the thing. As everybody here knows, here's the challenge. The system's not fair to the elected officials who have to go around raising millions of dollars from strangers, right? It's not fair to the businesses and corporations either, and I'll tell you why. Some of them get favors for the money they contribute, but a lot of them don't get anything. But they have to contribute just to get their voices heard. So it's not even fair to the businesses and corporations, and it's definitely not fair to us, because if these people are raising money all day, when do they have time to do their jobs? So here's the challenge. How are we going to get the media to cover the political views of the candidates without the candidates being forced to raise millions and millions of dollars? And then they got to come up with it, folks. We got to get the candidates to commit a bizarre crime. Now, look at how much crime dominates the media. The Pope was in Cuba recently on a historic visit. The sex scandal broke in Washington. 99% of the media left Cuba for Washington, D.C. At precisely that moment, Clinton should have gone to Cuba. Maybe met with the Pope. Maybe gone to confession. Bless me, Father, if I have sinned. But if you can forgive Castro, you can forgive me. I didn't think it was adultery, Father. She was barely an adult. Now, I don't know if this man committed adultery. I don't care. It's his sex life is none of my business. The guy is on national television talking about his sex life. People are talking about impeaching him. In my opinion, he's already suffered enough. He's on television talking about his sex life. Most people don't even admit they've had sex with themselves, never mind somebody else. And the reason they'll say, well, we don't have to get money out of politics because the Supreme Court. They love the First Amendment, unless when it's for us, you know. Supreme Court ruled that money is considered free speech. But if political speech costs money, it's not really free. It's really a form of advertising. So I was thinking maybe what we have to do is force our elected officials to wear their contributors' names on their clothing. Like athletes. And then the media would cover their public appearances like a fashion show. Bill Clinton's sneakers are a gift from the Tiananmen Square Chamber of Commerce. Newt Gingrich looks dashing in a blazer from Philip Morris. And Al Gore looks absolutely stunning in a flowing crimson sheet. A gift from a Buddhist monk. He claims he didn't know what was a gift. He was simply just making the bed. It comes down to this, folks. If money is considered free speech, then lack of money has got to be considered lack of speech. So April 15th, when the federal government wants our tax dollars, I suggest we all write letters to Washington basically saying, listen, we'd love to pay you, but to be perfectly honest, we're speechless. Folks, grab a sign, do what you can. Get done, too.
Thank you all for coming. It's an incredible night. We've packed this place. This is the 8th stop. on our Clean Elections bus tour. We were in Boston last night, Weymouth and Lowell over the weekend, Salem Monday night. It's been an incredible tour. People like you all over the state have come out to hear the good word about the Clean Elections campaign, about Question 2. We're going to win this campaign. We're going to win this campaign going away. And I'm very happy to be here with you tonight. We have a number of people who are going to come up and let you know why they're supporting Question 2. We're going to start with Representative Pat Jelen. Representative Jelen represents parts of Somerville in the State House of Representatives. She's been a tireless leader on progressive issues that we all care about.
I have to leave, that's why they let me go on first, and I'm really mad that I can't hear but I have the words to the song, so I can sing it. Somebody called me this week, a friend of mine called me from the Vote No on 2 campaign, and I thought, this must be wrong, she must have the wrong name, but she was actually calling me to try to get me to turn and vote no on 2. And she gave me these arguments. She said, well, you know, the limits are too low for people in urban districts and too high for people in rural districts. And we went on and on and on about various minuscule details of the whole thing. And then I said, compared to what? Compared to what we've got, the whole thing is rotten. It's not the details that are important about this thing, it's sending the message. And that's what I think you put in your literature. Send a message, not just to Washington, send a message to Beacon Hill. If this referendum loses, that will be such a message that everybody's happy with the way things are. And that means you're happy with health care the way it is, because we will never have health care reform until we have campaign finance.
My name is Joe Curtatone. I'm an Alderman at large and the Vice President of the Board of Aldermen. I'm here to tell you that I am proud to stand up and support the Clean Elections ballot question. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why, because our campaign finance system has turned into little more than a system of legalized bribery. It has made a mockery of the one person, one vote philosophy. I mean, special interests don't even consider it contributing. They consider it investing. And what they do is they calculate their investments that they'll reap great benefits in return. An unwarranted subsidy here, an unlawful tax break there. It's a mockery. In fact, what it will cost, what our government will spend to publicly finance elections will add up to thousands, possibly millions, that we save in comparison to what we spend now to dish out these subsidies and tax breaks and other bonanzas that add up to pay off to special interests. Now here, even here on the local level, we've got private developers, we got city vendors, we have political appointees who are quick to channel big bucks to their favorite political candidates, and the results are just too predictable. It's just too predictable. So let's take back our government. Let's make it work for us. Let's not make it work for them. Let's make democracy work. Let's restore democracy, and let's level the playing field for everyone. Thank you.
Now, the thing that I wanted to say to you today is just to put this a little bit in some historic context. I think you all remember that Abraham Lincoln said that ours was a nation that was conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all people are created equal. And he said that the struggle in his time was about whether government of the people, by the people, and for the people would perish from the earth. And I think the thing that we need to keep in mind in this particular challenge as we go forward to November is that every generation has had its challenge for democracy. You've had the challenge to win the rights to vote for women. You've had the challenge to win the rights to vote for African Americans and others who were systematically denied that vote. And right now we see that government and democracy in the United States is being eroded, it's under attack, it's being cut out from underneath. And so our challenge in this generation is to make sure that money doesn't destroy all those earlier efforts. And as everyone who has talked before has said, right now you see a terrible, terrible, terrible imbalance where the power of the vote is diminishing and the power of money is rising. We have a system that's less and less based on inclusion and discussion and more based on trying to use the consumer model, the market model, to stimulate an impulse buy on November election days, or to basically, as was said earlier, to construct a system of legalized bribery where our representatives no longer listen to voters, but they listen to people who give money. So the basic challenge for us in this generation at this time is, are we willing to restore democracy? Are we willing to take on the challenge that's been passed to us so that we have a democracy to lead for our kids? That, I think, is what if we pass this in November, we will have sent a message that will establish once and for all that this generation believes not in the politics of money and of the past, but in democracy and in the future. And so I'm asking you, will you support Yes on 2? Yeah! I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. I need to hear it in California. Will you support Yes on 2?
Yeah! Okay. Grab some literature. Find out what question 2, how you can limit campaign spending. Stop central influence and ban soft money for Massachusetts. There's nothing happening in Washington. What is Washington doing about campaign finance reform? Washington is doing nothing about campaign finance reform. It's time for states like Massachusetts to take the lead and get big money out of politics. Let's go Massachusetts! We started a revolution a couple of years ago. Let's start a revolution again. Let's get big money out of politics. Let's go!
Government for sale or rent, billionaires for president, elections on the auction block, buying access like a stock. It's a money game played by the few. We've got a lot more of it than we do for these men of means. What a sweet scheme, the big money roll. Soft money donors packs, buying ads to launch their attacks, promising to lower the tax. So when they win, their donor friends get all their dough back. It's just a little bit of quid pro quo, makes those campaign contributions flow for those men of means. What a sweet scheme, the big money roll. Every election in every town, candidates ride on the money go round, dialing for dollars, digging for dough. The more they get, the more they forget what they're there for. It's government for sale or rent, billionaires for president, elections on the auction block, buying access like a stock. It's a money game played by the few. We've got a lot more of it than we do for those men of means. What a sweet scheme, the big money roll.